I'd been driving Uber for 6 hours and was ready to call. I made one.
What's up, chat? Hi, everyone. I'm setting up the stream right now. What's up, chat? Hi, everyone. I'm setting up the stream right now. One second, chat. One second, chat. Yo, I'm live. I can't call. Oh, what code? I'm not in a code. I'm doing the same thing from last time. I'm back, chat. I'm back. I'm back. What's up, everyone? I'm live. I can't call. Oh, what code? I'm not in a code. I'm doing the same thing from last time. Yeah, I'm gonna turn down my phone volume so I can read chat and won't get repeated. Okay.
I made one wrong move with my pickaxe, and the entire cave started to collapse around me. I was trying to recreate Minecraft game IRL, but at this moment, I realized that real life doesn't have respawn. I ran back toward the light of the exit. I was nearly there when a giant boulder fell from the ceiling. It grazed my nose as it crashed to the ground. I stopped myself just centimeters away from death. The exit was completely blocked. More stones started to fall, and I was forced to run deeper into the cave. When the dust finally settled, I had no idea where I was. I had no map and no light except for my cell phone. I checked the battery, 5%. I had to find a way out, and fast. I walked deeper into the cave, searching for anything. My battery was at 3%. I had maybe 10 more minutes of light before I would die in complete darkness. To my shock, I found the body of a dead miner. He was wearing a backpack. Well, whatever's in there, I need it more than him. Inside was a lighter and 3 candles. Perfect. This buys me maybe an hour of light. I lit the first candle and tried to retrace my steps back to the entrance to figure out a plan. By the time I reached it, the first candle was burned out. I lit the second one, but a drop of cave water splashed down and put it out instantly. It wouldn't relight. I had one more candle in the bag, one chance to make something happen. I lit the third candle. The wick started burning fast and hot. Unlike the other candles, this one had 3 letters written on the side, TNT. This was no candle, this was dynamite, and the wick was burning up quickly. I tossed it at the boulder in front of the entrance and dove behind a stalagmite. I counted 3, 2, 1. The sound of thunder filled the cave with a blinding flash, and after the rock settled, I climbed out into the warm sunlight and said to myself, just like the video game, I made one wrong move with my pickaxe.
That's cool, I guess.
I found a dead body under I woke up at 4 a.m. to screaming from my son's room, but when I walked inside, I instantly started coughing. My 15-year-old Jacob was smoking cigarettes and loudly gaming with his buddies. I didn't even know he smoked, so I crossed the room with my breath held and unplugged his PlayStation. "You're going to bed. We'll talk about the smoking tomorrow." But he turned to me with these manic eyes and screamed, "Give me back my PlayStation." He put his cigarette out on my arm, and I immediately backed up as it burned. "Okay, we're seriously having a talk." I walked out of his room and locked him in for the night while he screamed, "You'll regret this." Next morning, I was waiting downstairs to talk, but Jacob stormed down with a stack of papers and dropped them on the table. "I'm suing you. I want emancipation and $5,000 in legal damages." My stomach twisted as I picked up the papers, and when I looked up, he was lighting a cigarette. "That's right. I don't want you to be my dad anymore." He blew the smoke at my face and walked out. That evening, Jacob yelled at me from his room, "Dad, I need $200 to hire a lawyer for the court." I laughed because I still didn't think he was serious, but that night I woke up to something rustling in my room. My eyes shot open and I saw Jacob going through my wallet. My heart shattered seeing my own son stealing from me, but I just pretended to be asleep, then slid my phone over and pressed record. He tiptoed out with all $300 from my wallet, but I had the evidence. 2 weeks later, I stood in court as Jacob Fake cried on the stand that I'm abusive and he's scared of me. I don't want him to be my dad, and I want $5,000 for emotional damages. He pointed at me like I was an animal. My hands shook and I pulled out the video of him stealing my money, but he began screaming before the judge could even look at it. "See? He records me without my consent. That's the abuse I'm talking about." My stomach sank as the judge looked at Jacob. "You believe you can care for yourself?" Jacob smirked. "Better than that faker ever could." I felt my whole body go cold because those words hurt so much, but that's when the judge smiled at me. "In that case, emancipation granted." He banged his gavel and Jacob immediately jumped out of his seat, cheering and throwing both middle fingers in my face. But then the judge kept talking. "This means, Jacob, that from today, you pay your own rent, food, and legally follow every rule your father gives you since he's now your landlord. Your first $1,000 rent payment is due in a month." My son's arms dropped mid-celebration. "Wait, I don't have any money." But the judge shrugged. "Fail to pay, and you'll be arrested. This is what you wanted." Jacob's face went pale. "No, I don't want to go to jail. Can I reverse the decision?" The judge simply shook his head. I walked up to Jacob and put my hand on his shoulder. "If I see you light just one cigarette, I'm kicking you out. I expect rent on the first." I walked out while he sobbed in the courtroom and lit up my own cigarette to mock him. I woke up at 4 a.m. to screaming from my son's room, but when I walked inside, I instantly started.
What kind of story is that? By the way, guys, if you're wondering how I make it so I can like make that sound effect happen, I click E on my keyboard because I made a hotkey in OBS, and now I'm gonna click E in 3, 2, 1. That's just how it works. Okay, I have it in here. I'm gonna delete this chat. It's glitched right now. Okay, that's better. Okay.
In the 3rd grade, a girl 3 years older than me grabbed my shirt and shoved me face first into a locker. I felt my baby tooth crack, and Rebecca loudly popped her gum in my ear. "Meet me behind the hill after school. I'm not letting you get away with shouting at me in the hallway." She pushed me to the ground and walked back to her bully friend group. I clutched my cheek shaking because my elementary school was run by 10 girls, all 6th grade bullies. And when you're a 9-year-old boy, that is an Avengers-level threat. I thought back to Rebecca breaking my arm earlier this year and gulped because I knew I was screwed. But when I saw them during break, taking my classmates' glasses and stomping on them, I got an idea. I waited until they walked away and came up to him while he cried on the floor. I whispered the plan in his ear, and his eyes immediately lit up. We followed them for the entire break, talking to every kid they bullied. When the final bell rang, my heart pounded, and Rebecca locked eyes with me and cracked her knuckles. "See you behind the hill." I walked out, my legs shaking, but instead of going up to them, I climbed to the top of the hill. Rebecca's eyes widened as she yelled, "Are you ignoring us? We're breaking both your legs for this." The 10 of them started walking up the hill, their faces twisted and fists clenched, and that's when I made my move. "Troops, in positions." Instantly, all 50 boys from my grade came out from behind me, standing atop the hill, including the kid with the broken glasses. Our army stared at the 10 girls. Their smiles dropped, but their eyes widened in rage. "We're still gonna beat you up." But then I pointed and yelled, "Charge!" All 50 of us began sprinting downhill. The girls' faces went pale in fear as they realized 50 mini bowling balls were rushing at them. "We're sorry," Rebecca Rebecca yelled and turned to run, but it was too late. We began crashing into them, knocking them to the floor and stampeding them. I stepped on Rebecca's hair and plowed into the others, sending them to the dirt. By the time we were at the bottom, all 10 of them were crying in the mud. Their elbows were bent wrong, their hair was ripped and covered in grass, and not a single one was moving. I planted my foot on Rebecca's back and shouted, "Victory!" In the 3rd grade, a girl 3 years older than me grabbed my shirt and shoved me face first into a...
Cool story. They did. This animator's great, personally. That.
The kid next to me squeezed his juice pouch out across my lap and started laughing. "I'm gonna tell everyone you peed yourself." He slipped out of his seat and drifted toward the door, the pouch still crushed in his fist, and my stomach dropped. All morning, the whole school had been losing it because my favorite footballer was minutes from walking into our room, the striker whose poster hung over my bed. If he saw me like this, I'd be the P kid forever, in front of the one person I'd ever wanted to impress. I shot out of my chair after him, but he was already halfway down the hall, leaning into every kid he passed and jabbing a finger back at me. The whisper moved faster than my legs ever could, kid to kid to kid, and catching him wouldn't kill it now. So I ducked into the boys' bathroom, wet a fistful of paper towels, and scrubbed at the stain. But the dark spot only spread paler and wider, soaking deeper the harder I pushed until half my thigh was soaked. A kid shoved in to use the sink and I twisted toward the wall, but he caught the soaked leg anyway and was snickering into the hall before the door swung shut. The speaker in the ceiling crackled on, and the principal's voice rolled down the hall. "Everyone, please give our special guest a warm welcome." My hands started shaking against my wet leg. That's when I spotted the lost and found bin by the sink with a pair of gray gym pants sitting right on top. I yanked them out and shoved my leg in, hopping on one foot as cheering erupted through the wall. I got them buttoned and shoved through the door bone dry. The footballer was up front mid-wave. Every kid twisted around toward me, and the one who set me up saw his shot. His arm shot out, finger aimed right at me, and he screamed, "Look, he peed himself." But there was nothing there, and every head in the room swung off me and onto him, the footballers with them. Right then, the pouch in that same fist gave out, and the last of it burst down the front of his own pants. Now he was the P kid for real, and my favorite footballer was laughing harder than anyone. The kid next to me squeezed his juice pouch.
What is this? Of course it's a juice pouch.
I was walking home when someone grabbed me from behind and threw a bag over my head. I screamed into the fabric, but moments later, it got ripped off, and I was tied to a chair. A big bald man stood over me. "Where's my $40,000? But I had no idea who he was. "You've got the wrong guy. I have 12 cents in my bank account. Let me go." His face twisted. "I remember your face from the casino. You're not leaving without giving me my money." But I remembered I had my mom's medication in my bag. I yelled, "I need to go home. My mom needs her medication. She can't even walk without her cane." But he scoffed. "I don't care about your mom. You've got until tonight to get me my money, or you're dead." I had no way to get that money, so the second he left the room, I yanked at the rope around my wrists to escape. I twisted and pulled until my skin burned, and one hand started slipping free. But then the door swung open, and he stared right at my wrists, his fists clenched. Trying to escape? I expected him to kill me, but instead, he said, "Your mom needs you home? As a matter of fact, I'll go get her. If I have her captive, you won't try to run again." I screamed, begging him not to as he walked out. But moments later, he came back, pulling my mom by the arm. She leaned on her cane, tiny and shaking. He laughed. She didn't even fight because she's so weak. She walked right out to my car. He pulled her closer. "You've got 1 hour, or you're both dead." Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't give him anything, and now my mom was going to die because of me. "I'm so sorry, Mom." But then she grabbed her chest and collapsed to the floor. I screamed, "Mom!" The bald man's face went confused. "Please help her. She's sick and weak." He rushed over and bent down to check on her. But then her hand tightened around her cane, and she swung it straight into the back of his head. He dropped, and she slipped the loose rope off my wrists and pulled me up. I was shaking as she dialed 911. "Mom, I thought you were too weak to fight," she smiled. He bragged that I didn't fight him, but I didn't fight because I needed him to bring me to you. Then I could take him down myself. Then she whispered, "Also, your dad is the one who owes him the $40,000. I gasped because my dad and I have the same face, and we're both brokies. I was walking home when someone grabbed me from behind and threw a bag over my head. I screamed into the fabric, but moments later, it got ripped off, and I was tied to a chair. A big bald man stood over me. "Where's my $40,000? But I had no idea who he was. "You've got the wrong guy. I have 12 cents in my bank account. Let me go." His face twisted. "I remember your face from the casino. You're not leaving without giving me my money." But I remembered I had my mom's medication in my bag. I yelled, "I need to go home. My mom needs her medication. She can't even walk without her her cane, but he scoffed. I don't care about your mom. You've got until tonight to get me my money, or you're dead. I had no way to get that money, so the second he left the room, I yanked at the rope around my
Wait,
wrists
it
to
already finished. Never mind. Okay, RT1VRGT. I'm not copying this from Legend GT. I know he's done this, but he actually copied it from a Roblox YouTuber. It's a Roblox YouTuber who does this. So I'm actually doing this also. It gains a lot of attention. I'm trying to get 5,000 subscribers for my face reveal. Okay. So that's my explanation.
A star shot over our backyard telescope, and I
So,
grabbed my big
Sandman.
sister's pinky. Promise you'll fly me to see the stars one day. She wrapped her pinky around mine. Fake sick tomorrow so we don't have to go to school. And while mom's at work, we're gonna build a rocket together. I nodded. Okay, sis. The next morning, as soon as mom left for work, we tore the house apart. I threw cushions into the yard for crash seats. My sis grabbed dryer hose for fuel, and we both carried out armfuls of tinfoil. She cut me a crooked porthole, and I drew a star on the side so we'd know which rocket was ours up in the sky. She taped crepe paper flames across mom's box fan, and when she hit the switch, the engine roared like real fire. I tapped her. Do you think the stars will melt my sneakers? She went quiet and double knotted my laces instead of answering. At 2:45 p.m., 15 minutes before our mom would be home, we carried our contraption into the square my sister had chalked in the driveway. A garden and a flame ripped out of the engine, and her hands shook the whole time she taped it back. Mom's car turned onto our street, and sis grabbed my helmet strap. Get in! She cranked the engine and dove in next to me, and I counted us down with my teeth rattling. At 0, the flames roared, but the driveway stayed right where it was, and my heart started sinking. Why aren't we flying? My sister handed me a melatonin sleep pill. This is the flying part. Astronauts sleep through takeoff. Close your eyes. Take this. It's magical. I listened to her, and within 5 minutes I was fast asleep in our rocket contraption. In my dream, the rocket came to life, and me and my sis shot through the sky into space with our arms out, and she took me to land on the stars. Somewhere far away, I heard mom's car door, and a blanket came down soft over the both of us. A star shot over our backyard telescope, and I grabbed my...
Nice story.
The defending skateboarding champ snatched my homemade deck and snapped it clean over his knee. Just go home, bro, and save us the embarrassment of watching that thing snap again. I grabbed the broken chunk and stood up. I'm still skating today. I lined the breakup on the curb and taped it tight over a fat line of glue, because that busted deck was the only board I had. Nate crouched down and flicked the tape. 20 minutes before the comp, and you think that holds? One clean run was all I needed to shut him up. Nate went straight to the judge's table. That board's tape and glue. It's a hazard. The head judge turned it over. Homemade's legal, but it's one run, and if it comes apart, that's on you. I took my deck back off the table. It'll hold. Nate grinned and jerked his chin at the packed bowl. When it snaps, everybody watches. Mid-jam, he raked his wheel across my seam and peeled the tape half off. I pressed the split shut till it grabbed. Then Nate bombed the long rail for an untouchable score. The only trick big enough was that rail. I dropped in and rode the rail out ugly, the torn seam holding just long enough to land it. I held the plywood out to Nate. You said it's the legs, not the board. Beat me on that. He grabbed it and grinned at the crowd. Easy. He dropped in, and halfway across the rail, the board split in two, right where he'd raked it. He slammed onto his back, and the bowl went dead quiet. A judge grabbed my wrist and threw it up. First, Nate came off the ground and snapped his own board clean over his knee. I dropped my two halves on his. You wanted to watch that thing snap again. The defending skateboarding champ snatched my homemade deck and snapped it clean over his knee. Just go home.
Nice.
When I was homeless, I'd sit by the same store on my dirty mattress and tie a string to the door handle to open it for every shopper whose hands were full. I thought it was a harmless way to distract me from the hunger. But one afternoon, a mom came out with a baby on her hip and carrying 4 grocery bags. I opened the door for her like always, and she smiled at me like I was actually a person.
Thanks for
I gasped in
subscribing,
shock,
Reggie T.
and she stepped back in fear. I don't have any cash, I laughed. I don't want your money, I just want to feel human again. She just walked away, and I thought I'd never see her again. But every morning she'd bring me a Boston cream Dunkin' donut and drink her coffee with me. But after a few months of this, she came empty-handed and grabbed my money cup. I watch you open the door for everyone that passes. No one ever gives you money for it, but you still do it. Why? I shrugged. I told you, I just want to feel like a human. She pointed at the hotel across the road. I managed the Grandview Hotel. My doorman just quit. She held out a card with both hands. You've been interviewing for this job every morning. You just didn't know it. She took out a piece of paper with the job offer on it. $25 an hour, 5 days a week, plus free housing at the hotel. My first shift, I stood at the Grandview's front door in a uniform with my name stitched on it, and she was holding 2 Boston creams. She handed me one and walked inside, and I pulled the door open wide for the next stranger whose hands were full. When I was homeless, I'd sit by the same
Okay, nice, I guess. Guys, I'm gonna end stream since no one's really joining and no one's typing in chat. I mean, if 2 people type in chat right now and say they're still watching, then maybe I won't end stream. But like, doesn't seem like anyone's, watching. So I'm gonna end stream. I'm gonna wait like 30 seconds or a minute. I'll wait a minute while watching a short.
The school bully walked around grabbing every.
Wait, pause. I think there's a glitch. Who just subscribed? Thanks, Kevin. Kevin, thanks for subscribing.
Everyone's money, but when he got to me, I was already holding out a homemade cheeseburger for him. Here you go, King. Enjoy. He grabbed it and examined it with one eye open like he was suspicious, but eventually, he put it in his mouth and swallowed it in 3 bites. I smirked because he had no idea that I'd blended 3 scoops of mass gainer into that patty, and I knew that in a few months, he'd be so fat he couldn't even breathe. He crushed the wrapper on my chest. Same time tomorrow, little man. I smiled. Can't wait. By week 2, he stormed over to me, already looking chubbier. From now on, I want a double burger. You're my personal chef now, nerd. So that night in the kitchen, I added 3 extra slices of cheese, 2 extra scoops of mass gainer to the patty mixture, and generously buttered both buns. By month 2, he was so large that he couldn't sit down without breaking the cafeteria bench, and he'd brag with his mouth full while his jeans button popped off. I'm gonna run this school till graduation. I thought nothing could go wrong. Then one Friday, he squinted at the bun mid-bite. Why you being so nice, nerd? What's in this? The table went quiet, so I grabbed it and took a giant bite myself. Just some extra cheese. Why do you want me to stop? Eventually, he ate it anyway, and I knew I had him. And on the day before spring break, he stomped into the cafeteria so heavily the floor shook. I sent him off with 6 burgers and hoped his mom didn't own a salad bowl. On the first day back, the cafeteria door opened, and the once mighty school bully was now rolling in on a mobility scooter, wedged between the armrests. Every fork in the room froze, and I had to bite my cheek to keep a straight face. So much for running this school till graduation. He rolled up and stuck out his hand. Chef, give me my burger, now. I took a slow bite of my own burger and shook my head. Nah, King. He raised his fist, so I leaned in close. What are you gonna do? Eat me? The cafeteria exploded, and even the lunch lady was laughing so hard, tears fell from her eyes. The class bully slammed the scooter into reverse and beeped his way out. I finished my burger in peace. The school bully walked around grabbing everyone's money, but when he got to me, I was already holding out a homemade cheeseburger for him. Here you go, King. Enjoy. He grabbed it and examined it with one eye open like he was suspicious, but eventually, he put it in his mouth and swallowed it in 3 bites. I smirked because he had no idea that I'd blended 3 scoops of mass gainer into that patty, and I knew that in a few months, he'd be so fat he I found a dead body under a tarp on the beach during my nightly fishing trip. But instead of calling the police, I set up my camera and smiled from ear to ear. I was a reporter who had just gotten fired, but this story was going to be my ticket to glory. I circled the tarp with my light rig, framed my shot, and even rehearsed my opening line. Tragedy washed ashore tonight. A crowd of joggers gathered behind me, and one lady was already crying, which was great for atmosphere. I reached for the tarp, but the crying lady screamed, "Don't touch it! That's a crime scene!" So I backed off and played respectful journalist. "So Mrs. Jogger, you must be pretty shaken, right? Give me a statement." But she shook her head. "I'm calling the police." I jolted because if the police arrived and blocked me from filming, my ticket to glory would wash away. So I rushed back to film the reveal of the dead body under the tarp. But at that exact moment, my light rig died. I couldn't film in the dark, so I strapped my phone to the rig as a flashlight and handed my camera to the crying lady and told her, "Keep me in frame no matter what." I could hear the police sirens getting closer in the distance, so I straightened my hair and rushed towards the tarp. I ripped it off, and the dead body underneath it stood up. It was a huge fisherman who'd been napping under it, and he was furious. "Your lights woke me up from my nap." He chased me straight through my own rig, and I screamed for someone to please call the police. My ticket glory hadn't washed away. It just never even existed. The crying lady kept me in frame the whole time. When the cops arrived, she was still filming, and I heard her say, in my grim reporter voice, "Tragedy washed ashore tonight." I found a dead body under a tarp on the beach during my nightly fishing trip. But instead of calling the police, I set up my camera and smiled from ear to ear. I was a reporter who had just gotten fired, but this story was going to be my ticket to glory. I When I was collecting my son from his new school, I opened the front door for him, but he jumped in the back seat and popped in an AirPod. Can you drive now? I gripped the steering wheel because we used to be best friends, but now I was just the guy who drives him around. I opened Spotify and tried playing Fireflies by Owl City, the song he used to love. But he rolled his eyes and started scrolling Instagram brain rot reels. I joked, is AI brain rot really better than listening to your old man? He put in his second AirPod, so I immediately searched best thing to play on a long drive. His story popped up first. I hit play and tensed up, not knowing what my son was going to do next. He slowly pulled an AirPod out. Yo, I know this guy. I didn't know he was on Spotify. He climbed into the front seat and turned it up, taking his second AirPod out. When the story finished, I played a compilation, and my son nodded. This His Story Spotify podcast is hitting for real for real. Now I can listen to him no matter what I'm doing. When I parked in the driveway, he hit the lock button. Can we do one more? When I was collecting my son from his new school,
That's nice.
I was at my high school prom when I let out a fart so loud I knew I had to go, so I rushed into the nearest porta potty. But the second I latched the door, it started violently rocking back and forth, and my stomach
Dad,
dropped.
start
I heard a laugh.
subscribing right
I'm a
now.
flip it. Say I
Please.
won't. I realized it was Derek,
Trying to
who
hit
bullied me
5K.
since freshman
So
year.
my
Derek,
face
don't.
will
I'm in my
crack.
suit. But he heaved it over anyway, and I slammed into the door as the tank emptied all over me. I crawled out dripping in filth while he cackled with his friends. Ow! He smelled like caca, farts, and ah! I walked away without a word like I always did, and
Bye, chat. I'm in stream. No one really answered.